Hi, I'm Christie Shinn. I'm the creator of Demon Bitch. I also am the creator of Sepulchre, and I also am a Ringo Award winner. You can find me at Horror Tower Studios pretty much anywhere except YouTube, where I am Christie Shinn. And also you can find me on my link tree under Horror Tower Studios, where I have a store where you can get my signed books and know about what the hell I'm doing. And you're watching and listening to Two Geeks Talking.
Good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone. Two Geeks Talking is an entertainment industry interview show where we interview the creative people from the comic, film, TV, movie, and video game industries. And of course, I'm your host, Kurt Sasso. We're joined today by a returning guest. It has been far too long since she's been last on the show, and I can't remember if it was 2020 or 2021, something along that line. But we are joined by the creator of Demon Bitch, coming back to us with a double Kickstarter, which is amazing in its own right. We're joined today by the ever talented Christie Shinn. How are you doing today?
Doing good. I am tariff free at the moment, so that's great at the time that we're going to be talking about this. I know everybody's been stressing out like crazy about it, and yeah, it's been pretty good. It's been kind of a wild year,
Yeah.
but it's been creatively great. So I got a lot of cartoons and comics on the way.
And that's what we're here to talk about. This is wonderful because the last time you were on, you were talking about, I can't remember if it was volume 3 or 4 of Demon Bitch. It's been far too long since we've talked about that. But for those that don't know anything about yourself as a creative person, tell us who you are and what you're bringing to Two Geeks Talking today.
Well, essentially, I am the basically creator of Demon Bitch, a low-level demon from the 13th pit of hell, where people throw their dog shit in gum wrappers. And she wants to bring the second coming of Armageddon, but the first one never happened because she's a freaking idiot. So she's based on girls I hate, and also stupid life stuff that I've seen, or with other people that I've known. So it's like people tell me there's shit and I draw about it, and I experience shit and I draw about it, and that's what cartoonists do. And people generally laugh, and it's almost like a confessional at times. And I seem like to be saying this at the wrong time, as now we are going for a new pope. I am not Catholic personally, but now I'm feeling like a blasphemous turd talking about it in this manner. But hopefully by that time, by this when this releases, we will have a new pope and everything will be right.
We can't vote for the Pope, unfortunately, because we'd have to be in Italy, I guess. But, hopefully they choose a good one.
Yeah, they have a certain sect of cardinals. I think that's what it is. Like, I kind of looked at the rules, and one of them was like guys that can't be older than 80. I'm like, okay. It's like I think I read that somewhere, like it's like 14 cardinals in the Vatican that can't be older than 80 voting for the Pope. That's one of the requirements.
I wonder what happens in terms of the voting process behind closed doors. You like congregate or whatever and start figuring out, okay, this pope did something great for me. This pope really didn't like me or whatever. It's like a click, but for Catholic priests.
Well, it's kind of like, when you look at the Catholic thing, because I'm a morbid fuck sometimes, but I'll look into like funerary practices. I'm trying to remember her name. She's from California, but she's a mortician. And she actually talks about funerary practices, like the difference between the East and West Coast in America. And she talks about incorruptible. And what canonizes you as a saint is incorruptibility. Now, that does not mean you're perfectly fresh and lovely from the grave when they pull you out, even though that helps. Incorruptibility, I guess, is a way to be preserved without any form of external usage. But that's been widely debated between different saints. And one of the things is that things that we would not determine incorruptible and rather withered and desiccated, that counts. Or everything else fell to dust. But the only one thing remains, like I think there was Saint Stefan in Hungary, I think, and I could be totally wrong, but he's one of the rare kingly saints. And like the only thing that's incorruptible is his hand holding the regal ball or something, and they carry it around and parade it around once a year.
Wow.
Because how I know this is that I went to Hungary and they told us about it.
You've described this Kickstarter as utterly horrible and the Omnibus as the worst collection book ever. Is this self sabotage, performance art, or a secret genius pricing strategy?
I don't know. I think I just am irreverent. It's like I take my work seriously, but I don't know if I take myself that seriously. Like, I don't think I'm the be all and end all of everything, but I do think I'm pretty good at what I do if people like it. So I think that causes for something. But then again, like I think my work always provokes a reaction no matter what I'm doing. Like I literally sometimes I'll draw something and somebody said, you drew that about me. I'm like, what? I wasn't even thinking about you, but okay. Like it's kind of like I guess it's one of those things like I guess in LA or something where they go like, oh no, there's no such thing as bad publicity. I'm like, all right, I just drew a thing and it was on my mind and it had nothing to do with you, but okay, if you made it about you, sure. And I've had run into that many times, and I thought that was really funny. Like literally, I've run into 4 or 5 same versions of a person in different incarnations. So basically, it's like there's 4 or 5 of you already. You're not really that special, and they get even madder that I didn't even bully them. So I'm like, okay, I don't get you. But these are the same people that say you bullied me and harassed me, and I'm like, I don't even know you. You just came up to me. Who the hell are you? I mean, but it's sort of like you kind of have to take it, and I don't mean with a smile to minimize it. It's just like, okay, it's just that's sometimes how you have to deal with a situation appropriately is kind of with a grain of salt and a sense of humor, because after a while it's gonna get to you and you can't let it get to you with things like that. It's like, okay.
Does self-deprecating humor help you survive life?
I've actually tried to stay away from self-deprecating humor, but I think it's kind of on the way how it's badly taught in our society how to be self-deprecating. It's kind of like, the concept of turn the other cheek or to take the higher road literally means take it up the ass. Like you just take it and move forward. And it's like, no, uh, is this going to be worth getting into a fight over? Sometimes you don't. Sometimes like, all right, whatever, go away. To like, well, there's another way to handle this other than to go over to your house and punch you in the face. By the way, I'm not endorsing that. I'm just listing a very stupid thing you could do in a moment, heat of the moment. So I'm just illustrating that. Um, but yeah, it's kind of like it's just basically find the wise path how to solve your problem. But for self-deprecating humor, I just kind of make fun of it because it's like, I mean, I run into a lot of people like that. Like they think they're the best, and I'm all about really good self-concept to a point. I think, there's a lot of problems in this world that would be better fixed by self-esteem and better self-concept, because when you really scrape below the surface, like a lot of people really have a lot of problems in how they view themselves in the world, and they're kind of viewing the world in this sort of weird traumatized hamster ball that isn't healthy. Um, and I speak from experience with that a little bit too. And I kind of feel that if people kind of had a better self-concept of themselves, they would kind of treat themselves and everybody else healthier. So it's kind of like I sort of make fun of the fact that how people take themselves too seriously. Like when in the omnibus, it's called the most mediocre collection ever. And I was just fucking around, like literally, because it's like I meet some people in LA that think they're the shit, but they really haven't done anything. They just talk a lot. And it's like, okay. I mean, there's a being proud of your work and having a vision, like I can see this doing something or I can see this being on something, and that's okay. Like I'm all for people having dreams, but it's just like when people are going out of their way to just talk a game and to not take that energy into their project, or they just talk about how they are the thing,
Mm.
but they really don't do shit about it to make it happen. It's like, can't help you there, buddy. So it's just kind of making fun of the most mediocre collection ever, where I look back and I'm just like, wow, I did a lot of books.
I see that a lot with a lot of film directors, or they've done one feature and that's all they ride on, and then they do a bunch of shorts, and then it comes down to, oh yeah, X production company of this famous person is looking at this to make a series, and then nothing happens.
Yeah, I mean, you run into that. Yeah. I mean, I won't say how often you run into that, but you run into that. You do run into that. I mean, it's kind of funny. So it's like, but you just keep hitting it until like it's just like anything, like at a job.
Right.
If you're in the quote unquote mundane world or the regular world or non-media world, you run into some form of that or another. You just keep hitting the job until you get a better job and a better job. Like before, I heard they used to reward you like, oh, if I've been doing the thing for over 40 years and you used to get rewarded.
Right.
Now you're viewed as like you're not being fast and fresh enough. You don't change a job every 3 years. It's like weird how trends are in the workplace.
Mm.
It's crazy. Like you can it's like literally you're stagnant if you stay at a job more than X amount of years now.
That used to be called stability.
Yeah, now it's like, no, no, you got to go to the next big thing. This is expiring. Fuck you, kind of thing. Yeah.
You mentioned tariffs here, and obviously that's a huge thing when it comes to creative works, when it comes to shipping, when it comes to absolutely everything under the sun whatsoever. What's your process for turning bureaucratic nightmares into advantages?
Well, it's like this. I mean, I think it's like one of the things, like we admit, I'm in the US, so I'm going from a US based perspective here. So this might change per country. But I mean, first of all, I pay attention to the news, not the news with the sensationalist headlines, but I pay attention to the details. And it looks like China at this moment has made certain concessions into things, or apparent concessions towards a certain thing, at least with America, at least like some inroads, some sort of movement. But what I do sometimes, it's like, okay, I don't want to pay this much. And as of this moment in time, it may change later by the time this gets out. Um, at the time, they say comic books or printed certain printed materials are not going to be charged with tariffs, but other things like game pieces. So if you make game pieces outside of the United States, you go and get that taken care of. You have to deal with the prices on that. Pins, I think, are part of that as well. I don't think lanyards, or if lanyards are, they're not that expensive. And stickers you can kind of get made anywhere. You just have to compare prices and vendors. Most of my stuff, for the most part, is made domestically. And I made that change years ago because some people would say, oh, print in China and all that. But it's like, man, I don't want to keep a huge pallet in my house. Like, and they'd say, well, go rent a storage space. It's like, then I'd spend money renting a storage space. For me, print on demand is easier because, and much more cost effective, because where I get it printed, I can kind of drop ship it anywhere I want to because they're international, but they have a domestic print shop. And this was years before. And I'm glad I made that decision because I started looking into, because I was seeing the trend. And if you know, like about 4 or 5 years ago, at least in America, our ports of entry were really blocked up
Right.
for months on end. So international shipments, which a majority of those things were an issue. Now, shipping from China was actually not bad because whatever I had to have shipped over, it was air shipped. So that was going to take the time it was going to take after manufacturer. So that didn't change. But but I'm glad I went domestically because a lot of the stuff that I wanted to have made, like my shitty tarot cards from, I think, a Kickstarter or two back, um, I had a great company domestically and I just had them all shipped to me, and it wasn't really that expensive considering the price. And I know people are like want to go and do overseas because it's cheaper, and I'm not dogging you guys because of that. If that fits your needs and that helps you what you need to do, by all means do it. Do whatever it is to fit your business. But for me, it made more sense domestically to get stuff done and ship it in. And I was glad because I was beginning to see kind of a trend at the time of all this backup, and stuff was backed up for months, and just like people didn't know what to do and everything. And they had to push back dates. Whereas I made all my dates this like consistently
Yeah.
because I just took a look at the general atmosphere, said, okay, so it's better for me, for my business to make it here. Like, I understand people want to follow trends in business and be more successful, but the problem with that type of the mentality is that you don't do it for you. So it's kind of like you have to do what's right. Like, you have to follow trends, but you have to do what's fit for your business. And it's okay to try new things. I mean, that's just what you need to do as an entrepreneur yourself and a creator if you're doing it on your own. But personally, for me at the time, it was good to do it domestically. I've stayed mostly domestically, but there are some pieces that I do have made in China. And I look at it, it's like, well, I have enough supply for right now until this thing is dealt with. And right now, I'm looking at domestic and other products that I could use too, that would fit people's price points at this moment, because I know like the economy has been tough for a lot of people
Yeah.
in generally worldwide as everything sorts itself out. So I am looking at certain small things, and also every time for international customers, because I know shipping internationally can be a bear. I generally will try to go and just give electronic rewards so that it's just a simple quick and go, and you don't need to pay for shipping, and it's an instantaneous disbursement once the Kickstarter has been funded and the money's in the bank account. We get that done.
That's really good. You mentioned lanyards and pins in what you just spoke on here. Let's dive into the lanyard side of things. Your lanyards mock con badge prices. Is this a middle finger to exploitation of fandom cultures?
Well, I mean, to be really frank, it's just practicality. I mean, who wants to spend X amount of dollars on a badge only to lose and then you have to pay for it again? I mean, that's a shitty thing to happen, you know? And sometimes the lanyards that you get or that you have from other conventions, I'm not going to call out anybody here. I'm just saying in general, um, like just the lanyards sometimes are pieces of shit. So that's why sometimes people want to buy customized ones. So mine, it's like I was thinking, because I've known people that have lost their badges and it's really expensive to replace them at some of the conventions. And I was like, and sometimes the badges have fallen off.
Mm.
But I think like, well, if you want a personalized kind of lanyard or your own lanyard that you want to bring, why not make it good? Why not make it last?
Yeah.
Why not make sure that it's not like a piece of crap that pops off the thing and you essentially have to go and buy a new con badge. And some of those badges can be 100 to 200 and you already busted your wallet like paying for the whole badge itself, and to replace it can be really expensive. So I don't know if I'm mocking like as a middle finger. It's kind of funny. It's like even this, like people expect me to be punk when I'm really not. It's just practicality. It's just like, yeah, you don't have to buy another fucking con badge because it's a bitch. Like you have to wait in line. It's busy and crowded. You want to go do the thing. You want to see your artists. You want to see your vendors. And this is something that's annoying to deal with. And I hate being annoyed. I think as I get older, it's not about me getting angry. It's me getting annoyed.
Mm.
I hate the most. I hate stupid shit that holds me up.
Yeah.
So it's like, I just did it out of annoyance. So it's not anger that really motivates me. Sometimes it's like being annoyed at a thing and wanting that thing to be done and done right. So I don't like my time being wasted, I guess, if that's the case.
Oh, no, that makes complete sense. It's almost like you're waiting in line at a coffee thing. You want to get your coffee quick and dirty, but the person is taking 5 minutes just to make a freaking multi-purchase order or something.
And you're just like, come on, fucker.
Yeah.
We have apps.
I'm curious here. What's the most annoying trend in creator merch right now?
Oh man, I don't know. I'm trying to think because I don't mind pins. Pins are cool. I can't think of anything that would be really annoying. Stickers are fun.
Mhm.
I really can't think of anything that would be so annoying as to just packing the thing. Like pillows can be annoying too, and stuffed animals can be annoying to ship because they take mass, even if you vacuum seal everything. So they can be bulky. Like stuff can be bulky, stuff can be hard to transport.
Mm.
But I've never had to really do those. I would say the most annoying con merch, and again, this is not a dig at anybody particularly. It's just for me, it would just be impractical to bring is like when you start bringing breakables.
Mm.
Like I know when you start expanding your product, one of the things you may want to bring is mugs, like if you have a Garfield mug, if you have like cute things and you bring, I mean, I remember this one girl she had the cutest shit, but it was like, I think something broke, like somebody actually knocked it over. I'm like, oh, that's a bitch. And I just went, oh, but it's not like I'm criticizing her choice of what she makes. That's what she chooses to make. It works for her. It's profitable. But to me, that would be annoying to do because it's like I have to make sure I get X amount of product. It's not broken. And when you introduce ceramics or glass or other breakables, it can be an issue. And again, I'm not dogging anybody's choice. I'm just saying for me, those things, anything breakable would be a pain in the ass to do.
You mentioned stickers as well too, and I'm curious because you're doing bumper stickers. The one bumper sticker that you currently have is "Hello, I'm stupid." But if you weren't holding back, and I know you really don't hold back, what would the sticker really say?
I mean, it's just hello, I'm stupid. Maybe I would say hello, I'm a fucktard or something. But I mean, I say that and I've had people get mad at me for saying those words, and I'm like, I'm actually not mocking anybody mentally handicapped or having conditions. Actually, people that I know that are mentally handicapped or have mental conditions actually get insulted if you mince words to suit them. Like, it's not saying that you're slurring them. If you're slurring them, that's insulting. But like, I have a lot of friends that are on the spectrum and they get really fucking pissed if some asshole calls themselves autistic. And they're like, you're not a fucking autist, you're a fucking asshole. And they've called themselves autists, people on the spectrum. So I'm not putting my own words in there, but
Right.
they don't like it when you. I think I remember. I think his name was John Callaghan, and he died several years
Mm.
ago. And he was a quadriplegic. He did actually an Australian show called Quads, but he was from Portland, Oregon. And he literally, I forgot what they called his type of quadriplegia, but he could only like partially move one hand and partially hold with another. So he'd hold his pen in his hand like this and literally take his hand and move it
Mm.
around. And it's hard to find. And he's done some kids books, but his shit is like really non-PC. Like it's bad.
Mm.
Like this was before PC and woke hit. And one would think, oh, that was a more terrible time. It's like I think people were more honest about their shit because one of the things he really hated when he became a quadriplegic, he was not born that way. It was a result of he used to be an EMT driver and I think while drunk, they crashed the car
Mm.
and he actually got thrown through the windshield and his upper spine
Right.
was fucked up. So that was resulting in his quadriplegia. But one of the things he talked about was, how he was regarded as a non-person. So he'd draw these really messed up cartoons to kind of show people, and people would get mad at him and all that and get so angry and treat him like a regular person. That's kind of why he did that.
Right.
And it was like kind of like they would talk to him like he was stupid or he didn't know what he was doing. It's like, my mind's fine. Why are you talking down to me? Kind
Mm.
of thing. So he would just constantly draw these inflammatory cartoons. And he would constantly make fun of disabilities. He would constantly make fun of all sorts of stuff. And it kind of gave him license to in a way because it was sort of like, it's like, I'm not a non-person. You can yell at me and you can get pissed at me like a regular person. And a lot of people, he had mentioned that a lot of people with handicaps get very resentful of that. It's like if you're around a person and they're like, oh, and you say like, oh, this is retarded or something. And then they go like, how dare you and everything. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not calling anybody right here. Like the situation is really fucking stupid and it shouldn't be,
Yeah.
you know. I mean, I've gotten yelled at for using that word and I'm like going, okay, whatever. And I just kind of ignore them because it's like, I'm not insulting people that are mentally handicapped. I
Mm.
actually give people that are mentally handicapped way more credit because like they actually try to go above and beyond what people say they should do
Right.
and that they're able to do because they always want to do better. I give them credit for that.
The only limits we put on ourselves is we put them on ourselves. Like if we're trying to surpass that in some way, shape, or form, whether we're able to or not, it goes to show your growth as a human.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that, oh, if a person says, hey, I have a lactose intolerance, no, fuck you, go eat ice cream. No, there's certain things you don't want to do, but because it hurts you. But I mean, you can go beyond doing what you can do. Like, I mean, it's funny. It's just like people tend to think I think it's interesting how people's minds don't really accept certain possibilities. They'll say it all the time. They're not really open to it. Like you'll have people that are going like, "Oh, you have to go and think of other people's feelings because they might get hurt." And I'm not saying that's a bad place to be, but
Sure.
sometimes in order to deal with a situation and the person that is making you uncomfortable is constantly stepping on your boundaries, you have to say, like, look, stop, you know? And if that hurts their feelings in the long run, like that hurt my feelings that you don't like it when I step on your toes. It's like, yeah, well, it hurts me. Stop. I don't care. Like it hurts me. Please be more careful. But then on the other hand, I don't advocate like, oh, well, you shouldn't be anywhere near me. You're a piece of shit because you accidentally stepped on my toes once or twice. I'm like, okay, that's a little extreme too. So it's like these two extremes of behavior, whether it's just like people are not this universal blanket umbrella of interaction.
Right.
People are different. Like some people want to be hugged, some people don't. I don't think that anybody should be forced into touching, but then there's sometimes you need to understand there's certain levels of socialization. So there's one extreme or the other that doesn't work. You kind of have to see what works for the person and what they're willing to acclimate plus what they're willing to not do,
Right.
which is a hard pass for them.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's bad, and this is not to include the extremes of abuse and neglect. That is not what I'm going on. I'm just talking about daily interaction and, trying to read that other person's lexicon.
You find that, like, I worked customer service for a number of years, so it was all about being kind, but also solving the problem, being interacting with a variety of different peoples from different walks of life, and it was like you start to understand frustration of people. You start to understand how to communicate more effectively without going over the scope of whatever you're trying to do. But I think it also comes down to, do you like to interact with people on a one-on-one basis? Are you more of a extrovert type group? It really depends on what gets you up in the morning, I guess.
Well, and also you kind of have to know your limits, and people like, oh, that means you're mental, whatever. I'm like, no, it's just like I learned recently. I was having a conversation with a friend that I ran into yesterday, and I realized like I really realized recently like it's okay to be grumpy.
Mm.
Now it's kind of weird to think to say. This is what I mean. Like I could get angry, I could get upset, I could get sad, I could be happy. But for some reason, being grumpy, that was a foreign concept. But I was sitting around and I was feeling kind of pissy and not great one day. And I was like, oh, this is grumpy. And that's okay. Like, it's like, this is grumpy. Like, fuck people right now. I don't want to deal with them. And it's like, does, because I could do this, I was like going, well, then I don't want to really deal with people. But, if I had to deal with people, at least I had the knowledge that I felt grumpy and would treat it otherwise, not be an asshole. Because I think when you're being an asshole, that means you're kind of overtaxed on your brain and your social functions, social capabilities at the time, I think. And that's where you kind of feel overtaxed on some level. And so, sometimes that speaks to more of like, and I know this is a weird concept, but I think people over push themselves in certain ways that I don't think are healthy. I'm beginning to realize because I'm doing stuff myself. But for me, it's like if I forced myself in my younger days, if I forced myself to go out and socialize and be happy, I would be even more angry and overtaxed inside. It would kind of negatively affect me in a different way. But now, since I'm like, oh, I'm really fucking grumpy right now, I didn't need to go out. So I just stayed at home and kind of dealt with it, like just decompressed in the way that I needed to. But I don't, and people go on and on about self-care, but they don't really gauge their emotions and allow themselves to feel them
Mm.
and say, okay. And if I had to be social, it's like, okay, what can I do to not be grumpy? What can I do on a certain level of social interaction that would work for me? Like, let's say if I had to go to a party and I was grumpy as hell, and I was like, okay, well, if I'm not feeling it, I'll be there for half an hour to an hour, hang out for a bit, make some small talk, go the fuck home. That's what works for me. You're not taking it out on anybody. You're fulfilling your obligation, but you're doing it within the limits of yourself.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if people just did that more for themselves, that would be fine. I personally would have just been like, okay, I'm gonna go home. Just feeling kind of tired. Bye.
Yeah.
You don't need to be a jerk about it. It's just like, all right, this is how I feel.
Speaking of emotions here, what's the emotion that's most dangerous to your creativity?
I don't know. All emotions are kind of equally good for me. I think dangerous would be if I allowed it to affect me negatively in the way that it was going to go and kill my creativity.
Mm.
Different emotions have different ways of gestating things in me. If I'm angry, or if I'm upset, or if I'm even happy and feeling devilish, I will create something very quickly. However, if there's like times when I'm kind of depressed or sad or in ennui, I kind of sit there and like, okay, and it feels like nothing's happening and it feels like it sucks and everything's being shitty and all that. But then, if you kind of let go and go past that, you can still go back to creating stuff. So not creativity, but creating stuff. But it's kind of one of those things where it kind of like you have to kind of know your rhythms and cycles of your mental state. And I think with stuff like that, it's like sometimes I'll be so super prolific, I'll do a million cartoons. And then when I'm not, I don't draw at all. But I've allowed myself to go, okay, so this is just how my workflow is. And it doesn't mean like I tell my clients, oh, fuck you, I'm not going to work. It just kind of is like, okay, well, all right, so this is my flow. I understand it. I go with it. And then I'm just going to go and then go rest period, go and go rest period. And I tell my clients realistically what to expect if I'm working with a client. For me, it's like I know I have to release a weekly web comic. So I got to get that done. Now, if I have to deal with other people to get some things done, then I will deal with them and ask them, what is it realistically that you can do? That way we can either negotiate about that or not. I think people tend to, I don't know, I think people tend to think no one will really want to talk to them or really want to work with them. So they get all really pissed off about nothing. And really, you just sit down there and just like work it out. Like, okay, I need this by this time. What can you do? Can you make it by this time? Is this a realistic number for you? Is this something I have to adjust? I don't believe in really pressuring people overtly like that. I mean, you can get a lot more done if you kind of talk with them and work with them.
Goes back to communication being the key, like, and setting boundaries too. Like,
Yeah.
there's realistic expectations, especially in tech and drawing and creativity. Is it's like, you know what you can do, you know what deadlines you can face, but as long as the client's willing to pay you, then that's even better.
Yeah. I mean, as I said, I generally like, I'll tell them realistically what I can do. And it's like, if you give me this, this, and this, and sometimes a project has gone on, but it's just we have good communication. I said, okay, I'll get this done. So I get this done. And then the next phase of it will happen, and it'll happen whenever it is will happen. Sometimes it's been delayed, and that gets annoying, but that's out of the clients and my thing because we're waiting on another component. It just is what it is, you know. I mean, I'll ask about it. I'll talk to them about it. I'll talk to them about my needs, and they can talk to me about what is going on and what we can do to acclimate that or to accommodate that. But I never really go out of my way to get, I think what people kind of tend to adopt is that they think their clients are automatically going to fuck them. And I don't think that's a good way to look at things. Another way is like, oh, they're just going to be like me. So I'm like this and they're going to be extra amiable. It's like, no, you just kind of have to go with what you think that they're going to do in sense of like what you know of them and what you see of them. But I think it's good if you just say, hey, you know, and I think that contracts are very healthy because if you have them, you both are on the same page and parameters of where to work on.
Because this is a double Kickstarter, you're doing an omnibus, and you're also doing a graphic novel. Do you mean bitch?
What it is, it's called Dumbass Express. The origin story is in volume one,
Right.
but the omnibus will contain all 5 books. The sixth book is a standalone because omnibus is technically, it's like it includes the first 5 books of whatever, or 5 books of your series. That's what I've led to understand. So this one is like the first 5 books of Demon Bitch, and that will include everything from volume one, from Hellfire and Damnation to, I believe, Pen 15. And then Dumbass Express is not included in that book, but I've noticed that sometimes I would sell out of the book, like out of the first 3 or 4, and people would really want it. They buy the other ones, but they really wanted the other ones. So, and I'm trying to make it different enough so that people don't feel shitty about buying like rebuying the same amount of books just to get one if they can't get that one. And by the way, all my books are in publication. It's just sometimes it's kind of a bitch for people to deal with that. But sometimes an omnibus is nice, and I'm planning to make it hardcover right now. I'm just working it out at this very moment in time, just due to tariffs and all that, even though I think printed material is not included, but I still have to figure out costs because it can affect everything.
What's the dumbest real life incident that inspired a plot point in your most recent book?
I think just people acting stupid. I think there's varying things of people acting stupid. Like they'll say one thing and they'll do something totally against what they say their values are. I've seen that so many times. I also see that, you know, people kind of go on this whole noise about standing up for themselves and they really don't know how. And it's not as dramatic as you think. It's just literally you say, hey, I don't like this. This isn't cool. You need to stay out of my business, kind of thing. Um, and like just how everybody's kind of willing to just sort of bend their head down and kind of just deal with it rather than say, you know, it's kind of interesting. I think one of the stupid things that people do is they'll go on and on about how they don't like being treated, but then when it comes down to that harmful treatment or the treatment they don't like, and this has been going on that I've seen for years, and then they'll just shut up. And it's like, you know, you could express that in some way or another. Maybe not get in their face, but it's like you can avoid that person. You cannot have anything to do with them. You cannot interact with them. You could not get in a fight with them. Or you could quietly just realize to yourself, okay, this method of interaction is not productive for me or them. So you don't need to be around them. or wait for a different time to bring it up. Like people don't really listen to themselves. I think that's another stupid thing people don't do. I mean, excuse me, people do not listen to themselves, and them not doing so is stupid to me. The double negatives are getting to me. But yeah, it's like I think just people don't really listen to themselves or their personal judgment. Um, and they think again that whole turning the other cheek is like just taking it and being miserable. And I think that's really stupid. You should always approach things from a thing of self-empowerment. I notice you don't tend to make very stupid decisions. You actually make a lot less of them for yourself and other people.
How do you handle entitled fans without setting everything on fire, metaphorically?
The thing is that you always try to tend to like just be civil to them. Um, I've not really had fans that were very shitty. I think most of my fans have been really good. Some of them have become my friends. But there are times there I've had to say, okay, this is not what I do, or I just don't answer them if they ask me something inappropriate.
Mhm.
It really depends on the situation, but I haven't really had to deal with shitty fans. But the funniest thing is like when people meet me in person, sometimes they expect me to be meaner. I'm like, how am I going to be meaner in person? I draw shitty, angry comics, but it's not like I'm a shitty, angry person. Like most people that draw shitty, angry comics are actually, they got it out of their system and they're actually pretty mellow. Like if you look at the likes of Johnny Ryan,
Mhm.
he loves Gigi Allen and shit, but he's like the most quietest, most peaceful guy ever. Like, you talk to him, he's very nice. He's a very nice guy. And like he doesn't do stupid shit. Why he draws all that fucked up shit, like, and gets it out of his system. So, and it's not particularly, it's disturbing, but it's funny. Like it's not one of those disturbing, like serial killer disturbings. There's
Right.
definitely a difference between those, but people that draw and write disturbing content aren't necessarily like crazy people. They're actually getting that crazy out. And you could tell like if somebody is actually really mentally disturbed and is willing to harm people, there's a definite difference with that. Just because it's weird, like Mike Diana, they made that mistake with him where they kind of fucked him over in Florida for that. I think what it was, from what I understand, is that he was thought to be the suspect in this rapist murder serial killer. And it turned out that he wasn't it, but they kind of took on his, and this is in the 90s, they kind of took on his stuff and said, oh, you could go and like, corrupt children. And it's like, this is mail order shit in like the adult areas of comics or, in adult books. Like these are things that adult periodicals where they would read. This is not shit that they would go and like a little kid could find it online. The online world was very, very primitive back
Yeah.
then compared to now. It's not going to be readily available. And when you look at his content, it's just all fucked up. So you know that it's not something you should get your kid. And if you do, you're an idiot. Like it's like, oh, boiled angel, and there's like a mutilated torso with a pair of tits that's cartoony. What's that gonna give you? But it's like I've talked with a guy a few times. I've had him like exhibit. I bought a couple of his pieces when I had my art curation show. And I'm just like, you know, he's a very nice guy. His rep is nice. He's pretty cool. Nice dude. He draws demented shit. So there you go.
You're creating a tarot card deck.
Yeah, it was just one of those things I'd shelved. And I said, I should really get around to doing this because I'm doing the second volume of Sepulchre, but I've kind of been so doing the Demon Bitch stuff a lot more because it's taken up a lot more and taken off a lot more that I'm sort of wanting to go and say, but I really like this tarot deck. It's like, and it's an actual honest tarot deck. Like the shitty tarot, it's a Lenormand style deck.
Okay.
So shitty tarot, I was making fun of it because Demon Bitch is really stupid, and it's like one of those people that you explain to a million times and they still don't get it. So a Lenormand style deck is a fortune telling deck. It's also a deck that's kind of like that reads like the major arcana very
Mm.
similarly. And actually, it's funny because more and more people are knowing about it because there are times I've asked people about it and they at first don't know, so I explain it to them, but there was a point suddenly at this point when I just started explaining, they said, oh, I know what it is. And I met more and more of them. So it's like, okay, so people know. But just that's what a Lenormand style deck, but I put in shitty tarot just to make fun of her. So that's like, and I took everything that pissed me off about Oracle decks. Like it's excessively large, they're hard to shuffle, the art scrapes off no matter like what kind of nice paper you and printing you put it on. The guild sticks all the shit together, the cards, so you can't shuffle them properly. So I went ahead and I made a tarot deck that was easy to carry in your purse or your
Nice.
pocket. And it's like literally a lot of the tarot decks started off as playing cards. And some people will use playing cards to read tarot. And I kind of know how to do that. I know how it's done. And in order to design a deck like that, or a fortune telling deck or an oracle deck, you do need to buy yourself some cards and learn how to read them. Even if it's not great, you have to get into the idea of what it is.
Mm.
So even though the suits are standardized and the arcana are standardized, how people draw them, like that's why some people are drawn to certain decks, because it will give them slightly different interpretations. And it'll actually give them much more three-dimensional aspect. So for me, I kind of wanted to get this Murder Ballads Tarot out. I really like the album from Nick Cave. It is not endorsed by Nick Cave. I just said Ballad Tarot because it seemed to work, but it's not associated with Nick Cave. I just like the album and I just kind of was inspired by it. But I mean, nobody's giving me shit about it right now, so but I decided to make a honest to God tarot deck. I will probably make it standard tarot deck size, but not the huge one, but
Right.
just like a nice card so you can hold it okay in your hands. There are tarot decks that are actually tarot size, but they're not unreasonably huge.
What is it about tarot and drawing your own deck that just gives you a palette cleanse when it comes to your artistic style and creativity?
I think you have to tap into what you know about it. Um, so let's say you know of the Star Arcana, right? That's like of hope, and it's usually a nude woman pouring out things. The Rider Waite is a standard go-to to learn. But if you get into tarot, like you put it out and you put out a spread, like you say, oh, okay, the star, it's hope and it's wonderful. That's the nice textbook thing. But sometimes what pops in your mind is going to be very different than what the card will represent. It'll like kind of be a download. And that makes me kind of sound weird, but it is actually true. And sometimes you have to tap into that. It gives you a more three-dimensional aspect of what it's doing. And sometimes the art on the card will kind of give you insights to what's going on. So for me, I just thought it was natural to do a tarot deck. I love artwork on tarot decks. Tarot decks are just kind of cool to do. And it's always fascinated how me on House on Divination, I don't think it's all crap. I think there are people that do project their own crap onto it. I think there are people that go out of their way to sort of there are charlatans out there. I'm not saying there aren't, but there is definitely something that it taps into for your mind to see in a different dimension or a different way or a different thought. Um, like for example, my mom told me a story that I apparently did when I was a kid. So I drew a picture for the teacher in class, but it was in the middle of the paper. And the teacher told me, Christy, that needs to be down at the bottom of the paper. And apparently I took a pair of scissors and just cut off the bottom of the paper, said, here you go. I mean, another kid would probably have drawn another picture completely and, put in some more effort and time to follow directions, and where I followed directions in a different way. So I think it's like tarot is kind of like that. It kind of makes you think in different ways, or it kind of pushes your brain to think different ways or different possibilities. And I'm not saying that to be kind of like, oh, it's the end all be all. I think it's a way, I think tarot is a system like any divination tool, is to tap into the more subconscious part of your mind. And I remember a therapist telling me, when you're intuitive, it's not necessarily you're kind of psychic. It's just we tend to pick up on things more subconsciously than we give ourselves credit for. And I think people dismiss that a lot about themselves. It's like you don't necessarily need to have magical psychic powers to determine things. Like if you allow yourself to kind of process it and just kind of follow a gut feeling and know the difference between just random thoughts versus actual intuition,
Mm.
I think it kind of, I think that would sort of actually make people a little bit more at peace and more sure about themselves on that level.
Nice.
I'm speaking from personal experience too. And again, it's not just like, oh, it's just magical powers. It's like when you act like that, it's sort of like whatever your basis is or what your story is or what your or what you've been taught can dismiss like actually a very important skill that you have.
Interesting.
Like when you look at it, FBI have great intuition in the terms of profiling serial killers. That's kind of how it started. Like you read between the lines, okay, certain clues, he would be this, he would look like this, he tends to come from this aspect, he will have this, and they've been pretty right on a lot of the time. I mean, they
Learn
did that
something.
a lot extensively with the Green River Killer and Ted Bundy. There you go. And that was in its 70s and 80s in its
Yeah.
infancy. There you go.
Learn something new every day.
Real life application of intuition that you put into fruition is look at FBI profiling.
Not something I've actually looked into recently at all, so might have to dust that off.
Yeah, I mean it's like all interactive. I think just because people think it's like, oh well, it's since it's spooky, it's like really weird and stuff. It's like it's not really that spooky, guys. Like you guys need to just take a breather and kind of think about this.
Where we can find you and support you, obviously.
My Patreon's always open. I'm open to donations. I'm also on Global Comics as well.
Mm.
You can find those on my link tree as well. I didn't want to give like link exhaustion, but I also do a draw stream at noon on Wednesdays Pacific time. And I drive for about an hour, and it's just a draw stream where I chat with people. It's available on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook, but it's going to be on my Horror Tour page because it doesn't work directly on my personal life for some whatever reason. But for right now, that's the current links at the moment. And yeah, you're welcome to come by, drop by, comment, subscribe to any of the links. I have Instagram and X, and I have that all at Horror Tour Studios. And you can see my announcements and what I'm doing new. Chances are from this interview, I'll be doing the Kickstarter will be more finalized, so probably some of this information will be obsolete, but I'll definitely have the Omnibus lanyard and the 6th graphic novel upcoming.
Well, that ends this particular episode of Two Geeks Talking. You can, of course, find this interview and 1,200 plus others on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/TGT Media. The podcast you can find at twogeekstalking.podbean.com. That's TWO, not the number 2. And, of course, as I say every week, everyone has a story to tell. It's up to me to help bring that out. Thanks for listening and watching on Two Geeks Talking.